This is going to be, you could consider it 2-3 day 3 notes, and you can put it on the back of day 2 notes if you want. What we're going to work on is solving this one. And what it's going to be is 3 equations and 3 unknowns, which you can do. Remember, you have to have the same number of equations or more equations than the number of unknowns. And we're going to use matrices to do it. You don't need matrices to solve this one, but it is much quicker to use matrices than to do this one algebraically. Okay. So yeah, we have x, y, and z, and 3 equations. And then once we get our matrices, we're going to let the calculator do the work for us, because we're not going to be concerned about finding a 3-by-3 inverse. It's much more difficult than the 2-by-2 inverse, where the 2-by-2 you just switch these values, change these signs, and you're done pretty much, right, for that inverse. The 3-by-3 is a little bit more complex than that. And so the first thing we'll do once you get this written down is we'll actually turn it into a matrix equation so that we know what matrices we have. So you notice I do have it x followed by y followed by z in each case, correct? They're all sitting just like that. And so what we want is we'll just start making this. There is really a 1 right there, right? So it'd be a 1, a 2, and a -3 from that first equation, right? For the coefficient matrix, again, we like to call that A. And then the next one would be 2, 1, 2, from right here, 2, 1, 2, right? And then 2, -5, 4. And it's very important that you write these numbers down properly, because if you put these numbers in your calculator differently, you're solving a different problem. All right, and so you need to make sure that you put them in here. And to make it a matrix equation, we will have to take it times that point matrix, and then it will equal this matrix over here, which is 50, 3, and -79. And we call that matrix B. And what would the point matrix be for this one? Yes? X, Y, Z. And does it have to always be alphabetical? Yeah, it helps us, right? It makes it easier to understand. But it's whatever order these came in, right? X, Y, Z. Because again, if I take this top row here, which is 1, 2, -3, times x, y, and z, I get, 1x plus 2y minus 3z. It actually gives me that top equation, right? And it equals 50. So if we were to take a look at this based on what we did the other day, this is matrix A, right? And that's matrix B. And so we would have to take the inverse of this left side to cancel it out, but then take the inverse of the right side. And it really boils down to us taking the inverse of A times B, correct? Okay. So now let's go ahead and we're going to let the calculators do that for us. We're going to put matrix A in, we're going to put matrix B in. We'll even let the calculator do the inverse for us. This is going to basically do it all. And a lot of people are surprised when they go to look at the calculator. They're surprised where they find matrix. And you really shouldn't be, because it's one of the main uses for the inverse. And so you see that x to the -1 button? And look just above it. That's where matrix is. Again, no coincidence that those two are put together. Okay? So now to get matrix to come up, you have to hit second, and then matrix. And then you have all this information. And some of you may have numbers next to C, D, and E, right? That's okay. And it doesn't matter if there's stuff in the other ones. It's only going to use the ones I tell it to use. Okay? So we know our matrix A now is basically this matrix back here, right? 1, 2, -3, all of that. That's our matrix A. And so that's what we need to enter in matrix A. And so we'll go back to our calculator, go over. Now, if you notice, if you go over, there's a math. So here's like determinant and various other things. I would like to edit those, so go over one more time. And now I have to tell it which one I would like to edit. And right now A is highlighted. So let's go ahead and just hit enter. And again, with this being a calculator problem, if you ever get behind, let me know right away so that we can get you back on track. Well, how big was my matrix A on that other page? It was it 4 by 4 like I have up here right now? No, it was only 3 by 3, right? So 3, enter, 3, enter. And then notice all you have to do is go through and enter your numbers. And down here it says row, like 1, comma 1, so it's row 1, column 1, and you tell it what to enter. I have a 1. And then you just keep going across and put your numbers in. 2. Be careful with the -3. Okay, it's not subtract 3, it's -3, right? So the negative is this one down at the bottom, -3. Enter. All right, and then 2, 1, 2, right? And 2, -5. And be careful on the last one. Some people just hit 4 like that, and they think, oh, it's good. Well, look at your matrix. Is the 4 in there yet, though? In that last spot? You see how it's a 1? Make sure you hit enter on that last one so that it actually goes in your matrix. So take a look really quick and make sure that your matrix A is correct. It looks as though mine is. Okay. So that's matrix A. Now we need to enter matrix B. I am very cautious with this matrix program, and I always quit out of it and then come back in. Okay? So let's quit, which is right above the mode. So you go second mode, you quit out, and go back in. I'll be very honest with you, you don't always have to do that. But watch what people do. This happens a lot. People get going really fast because they think they're really good. They go down to B, then they go over to edit, and then they hit enter really quick and they edit the matrix. But what matrix am I going to edit right now? A, and that's not the one I want to edit, is it? And if you get going too fast, you could see how that could be a problem. So go over to edit first and then tell it which one to edit. Oh, let's edit matrix B. And again, you realize it doesn't have to necessarily be A inverse B. It has to be coefficient matrix inverse times that solution matrix. So whatever letters you want to use. So what's mine? 3 by 1, I think, right? And I like how it shows you actually the matrix here. So you can know if you put the right dimensions in, right? That's really nice because otherwise you'd be like, I don't know, maybe it's in there, right? What do we got? 50. Enter. 3. And -79. Again, notice if you don't hit enter on that last one, it doesn't actually enter it into your matrix. So go ahead and do that. Enter. So right now, I hope you agree that we have matrix A and B, the ones I want to use, entered, right? Again, if you have stuff in all those other ones, it doesn't matter. So now in the matrix program, all you can really do in the matrix program is enter matrices. You can't actually do calculations on them, so let's get out of that program. So you quit, and it should take you back to your main screen. This is where all calculations are actually done, is on this main screen, not inside the programs. So now what I would like to have is let's get A up here, take the inverse of it, and take it times B, right? So let's go back into the matrix program, and I hit the wrong one. Go back into the matrix program, not the one I just did. And which one do I want? I want A to come up first. Now be very careful right here. Hit enter. Notice how it has names and the first one is highlighted. Hit enter only once because then it just leaves matrix A like that. Let me show you what happens if you happen to hit enter again. Well, great. I get to see matrix A, but I wanted to do more, right? I didn't want it to stop at that, okay? And so now I know how to fix that problem. There's A, right? Now what do we have to do? We have to take the inverse, correct? How do you take the inverse? Well, there's that inverse button right on the matrix, right? So there you go, inverse button. Apparently you had to hit it though. There you go. Now if I were to hit enter right now, would it give me the solution to my problem? What would it give me right now? The inverse. Oh, well, that's great if I have to find an inverse, right? But that's not what I'm trying to do here, right? And so what we'll do is we'll go back in and we'll get B. So second matrix. Now if I hit enter right now, that's not what I want, is it? I don't want matrix A to come up. I want matrix B to come up. So there it is, A inverse B. Did I have to hit times? No, it knows to multiply. It knows that's what I want it to do. You almost have to tell it to add or subtract, otherwise it's going to actually just go ahead and multiply. So if I hit enter right now, it should give me the X, Y, and Z values that will answer our problem that we have. And so hopefully, let's cross our fingers, and hopefully we all get the same thing. I got 4, 11, -8. Now which one's which? Yes? Perfect. What the person said was that if you look back at your point matrix, X, Y, Z. Yeah, I said person because I don't want names necessarily getting out there, right? They have slipped in the past. So they said, well, X would be your first one, Y would be your second, and Z would be that one because that's the order they were in your point matrix. And so exactly, X is 4, Y is 11, and Z is -8. Now, based on the equations I gave you, do you believe those to be the only answers that will make all of these work? Again, it's going to make all of these work. Yeah, because there's no x squareds or anything weird like that, right? So it is going to be the only ones that work. Now remember, is there a guarantee that any of them, I mean, it's a guarantee that there's no answer, right? So sometimes your calculator will give you a weird answer like, I'm confused, or error, or something like that. And sometimes it's user error, but sometimes it's maybe there just isn't a solution, or maybe there's lots of solutions, and so it doesn't know. Right? And so that's when you should go back, check, make sure you put your matrices in right, and go from there. is there any steps that you would like me to revisit on the calculator? Because there's nothing wrong with you writing down the steps on the side, like what button does what. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to write that down. Say, oh, it's the matrix button, or you edit, or here's where the inverse is, or something like that. Okay. Now, this next one I'm going to have you do is a little bit more complicated, because I'm going to have 4 unknowns and 4 equations, but I'm not going to use every unknown in each equation. So this just takes organization on your part. And it's however you want to organize it. So here's the second example we'll let the calculator solve. Again, those are my z's. And again, we're going to have a total of 4 unknowns and 4 equations, so it is one that potentially can be solved as long as there is an answer to it. So we have an x, we have a y, I see a z, and I see a w. So there is 4 unknowns, 4 variables, and enough equations. I got 4, so we're good. Huh. Well, this seems a little tricky. And I'll show you something that, leave yours the way they are right now, but I'm going to show you something that normally will trip people up. Because if you're given something like this, right, you want all your constants over on that side, so all you have to do is just move it over there, right? Just subtract the 1 from both sides, right? And then it gets right back to what you had, right? At least I think that's what you had, isn't it? It was equals -1, wasn't it? Yep. Okay, so watch out for those. Make sure it's all just variables on this side. Well, this is quite tricky. And now it all depends on how you want to organize it. So my suggestion to you on this one is figure out, well, what do you know there's going to be a matrix here, and it has to be 4 by 4 because there's 4 unknowns. And then you're going to have a 4 by 1 right here, and it's going to equal a 4 by 1. Well, this 4 by 1 is probably the easiest one to figure out. It's that. But what you need to do is figure out what order do you want to put your point matrix in. Most people choose algebraic, or excuse me, they choose alphabetical order. I'm not sure where algebraic came from there. So let's just choose that and see if we can figure it out. So if our variables are x, y, z, and w, what would actually come first? Algebraic. I said it again. Alphabetical would be w followed by x followed by y followed by z. Do you have to do this problem this way? No, you can set any order you want as long as you follow the order. So here now, everybody pay attention up here. This is important. Now for our first equation right here, let's go ahead and write the numbers in here, right, where I put that little squiggle, all right? So what we have to put first is how many w's we have. How many w's do I have in that first equation? See, because w comes first. None, so you put a 0. How many x's? See, I just went down the line. How many x's do I have in the first equation? 3, right? How many y's? I'm just going down the line. I have how many in the first equation? None. And how many z's in the first equation? 1. So if I actually take this row times that column, will I get 3x plus z? I will. Okay. So now in the second one, maybe we'll color code things a little bit here for those watching the video. The first thing you have to start off with is any w's that you have. Now this is a tricky one. -1, yeah, because w doesn't come first, right? That's why people mess this one up a lot. Your w, it's right there, right? So it's -1, very good. Followed by any x's you have, which I don't have any. Followed by any y's, which I have 2, right here. And then followed by any z's I have, which I don't have any. Again, if I multiply it out, I actually get that equation. Maybe in a slightly different order, but I get that equation. Okay. And then we'll do the third one here. I think you're probably starting to get the idea, right? And so you start with any w's you have, which is none. And you go to any x's. That's 1. It's right there. Any y's, another 1. Any z's, there's none. Okay. And then we'll go to our last equation. Again, you start with w's. You always start at the top of this point matrix. I have 4. It's right there, right? And on any x's, I don't have any. Any Y's? Don't have any of those. Any Z's? I got 1 right there, right? So we've taken 4 equations with 4 unknowns and turned it into just 1 equation. It happens to be a matrix equation, but it is just 1 equation. So if I could just get this matrix A that's right here, get it out of here, I'd be left with this point matrix, which is what I want to do. And the only way to do that is to take the inverse. But we're going to let the calculator do that. And again, we really want to end up with that. Okay? So go ahead, put matrix A in, and put matrix B in, and we'll go from there. So I'll let you work on that. And I'll kind of do it up here, so if you want to see step by step how to do it. Let's go into the program. I'll go over and edit. And if you were paying attention at the beginning of the recording, the matrix that were up here before, probably you know where they came from now. Watch out with your negatives. Again, make sure you hit enter on that last one or you can get in lots of troubles. Now you see how it shifted over. All you need to do if you want to go back and see those other ones is just hit the left arrow to get back so you can see those other ones. And now you see it's kind of gives you these ellipses here over on the right. That just means you can push out that way if you want. And I like to check before I go too far. All right, so let's go back over and see if those are right. Yeah, those look pretty good. And so I'll get out of there. I'll go back in. And again, you want to go over to edit first, then down to B. And it should be a 4x1. Whoops. Yeah, make sure you hit the right buttons, though. Because otherwise, again, it's just going to solve whatever problem you give it, right? So be very careful. All right. Now, here's where I cheat a little bit by knowing how to make my calculator do certain things. You notice I didn't clear out that a to the negative 1b up there, right? Didn't clear that out because you could go back in, get a, take the inverse, take it times b, but a quicker way is if you hit the second button, if you look right above the enter button there, it says entry. That'll bring up the last thing you hit enter for. And so second, enter, brings up a to the negative 1b, but have I changed a and b? Yeah, they're not the same a and b I entered before. Now, is there anything wrong with entering it each time? No, there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to find faster ways of doing things, and with technology you can do that. Now it's going to take the inverse of my new matrix A and my new matrix B, and gives me that. And based on how we ordered it, we did it alphabetical, right? And so this would be W, X, Y, and Z. Right there. And once again, do you believe those to be the only combination of solutions? Yeah, probably. Okay. And that goes back to the story where Archimedes, who was a very intelligent mathematician several thousand years ago, gave his competitor a problem that had 7 very complicated equations but had 8 unknowns. So in that case, either there's no solution or there's lots of solutions. And it kept that person busy for a very long time. Any questions on how to use the graphing calculator? And for example, one thing I can show you quick, if I bring this back, I know that we don't know how to find the inverse of a 4x4, but my calculator sure does. And it's probably not going to be pretty, just so that you know. Okay, because they multiply it in. They multiply that fraction in. But maybe we want to see this answer a little bit better. Watch this neat little trick. You go under math. The first option there is to a fraction. And it'll just take those answers to a fraction if it can. And there they are. There's the inverse of matrix A, which by hand would have taken us forever. Again, it has this little down arrow there, which just means if you need to see more, just hit down, and hopefully it doesn't freak out, and it didn't. But now you see the up arrows, you can go back up and get more. So you can find the inverse on here of very complicated matrices. And the determinant, right? I showed you where that was. So do you have any question?